Hey, what's up everybody? If you've been following along, I'm doing a film series breaking down basically I shot my first feature film and I'm breaking down the whole process from screenwriting all the way to directing to editing to shooting to submitting the film to festivals to distribution. I'm going to document everything I've done, and I've gone through the screenwriting process. I've talked about the funding. I basically had $10,000 to make this film, and now I'm going to show you my budget of how I broke down that $10,000 and how I decided what part of the film needed certain amounts of money, and then I'm going to explain how you break down your script to also budget out your film, because at first I was like, I have no idea how much I should be putting towards this and towards that and so on and so forth. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm actually using the same camera to shoot this vlog that I shot the film with, which is the GH5, and that was the first thing I bought. So with $10,000 as my starting amount of cash, I spent, son of a bitch, I didn't write it down, hold on. Alright, so the camera I'm shooting this vlog on is the same camera I shot the film with, so I can't actually show it to you, but it's the GH5, and I spent $1,680 on it. At least that's what you can get it for right now. That's without a lens. I will get into the lenses in just a minute, but just to start off, so I made the film for $10,000. That was my full budget, and I spent $6,220 in equipment. And when I say equipment, that means gear. That means cameras, lenses, drone, all that type of stuff. And I'm going to break down each piece of equipment that I used and a rough estimate of what I spent on each one of the pieces, or at least what they are going for right now currently at the making of this video. Okay, and then I used 3 lenses. One of the lenses I didn't put in my budget because I already owned it. It was a Canon 50mm lens. Chances are if you're watching this video, you already own it, because it's kind of like, it's the nifty 50, everybody owns it. Second lens that I bought was the Sigma 18-35, and that lens goes for about $700 right now. And the third lens I use is the Laowa f2.0 7.5mm lens, wide angle lens, for $500. And so those are the 3 lenses I use. If you missed that, it's the nifty 50, the Sigma 18-35, and the Laowa 7.5mm. And then I used an adapter. It was the Voltrox, I think that's how you say it, 0.71 speed booster. And I used that to get the nifty 50 and the Sigma 18-35. The Laowa is a native lens that you don't need the adapter for. And that cost me $125, and it works really well. And I've used the Metabone speed booster back when I used to own a GH4, and that was really amazing. But I didn't have any trouble with the Voltrox, which is much less expensive. I didn't have any trouble with it, and it was only $125. Very happy with it. Okay, the next thing I bought was a stabilizer. I bought the Xeon Crane 2. I know they have the new DJI stabilizer out. It looks pretty awesome. I could imagine going either way, but the Crane 2 worked really well for me. I was very happy with it, and that thing rode me back like $650. I shot my entire film outdoors, and one thing I had to have were ND filters. But I didn't buy just regular ND filters. I bought the variable ND filters. I bought some cheap ones off of Amazon for $25 a piece. I bought 3 of them to fit all 3 of my lenses, and I bought some step-up rings. All in all, total cost about $75. Alright, another thing I bought or had access to was a $240 Tascam to do my sound. So that thing was, the one I used was the DR44WL Tascam. Cost about $240. Worked really well for me. I was very happy with it. Later on in future episodes, I'm going to show you how I did my whole sound hookup and everything. Sound people will probably roll over in their graves, freak the fuck out, say can't believe I did it that way, whatever. I don't give a shit. It worked really well for me. There's probably a lot of different audio options out there. Audio is not my fucking area of expertise, but nonetheless, it's what I used. It worked really well for me. I was very happy with it. Highly recommend. Okay, I used a microphone, the Sennheiser. Oh, there it is. Sennheiser microphone, this one right here. I've had this microphone for over 10 years. You can buy it for, like, if you go online, it's like $460. This microphone is worth every penny. I've used it on every one of my productions. It has seen some better days, but this thing still fucking runs, works perfectly like nobody's business. Sound is very important. Highly recommend buying a fucking legit microphone. Okay, another thing I purchased was a Phantom 4 Pro. This boy right here. I got the actual built-in screen. I spoiled myself on this. This was my own money. I didn't give a shit. I spent about $1,500 on it. Barely used it. Definitely don't have to use it. Don't have to have it. You could probably ask a friend to borrow it or show up on set and do a couple quick shots. But nonetheless, I just wanted to get a drone, and so I bought it and I used it in the film. So I'm throwing it in there. $1,500. A little side note, you know, it's Phantom 4 Pro. I think they're going to be out with the 5 soon. So if you're looking at drones, don't buy that one. Buy the latest and greatest, the newest one that's about to come out. Okay, I also used a monopod. May not sound really important. I'll throw up what model on the screen here because I'm not going to fucking read out that number or whatever. But the monopod is actually very useful. I use it all the time, especially when I'm using the crane too. I put it on the bottom of it and walk around. It's definitely my favorite way to shoot stuff, especially when I'm using any stabilizers. So just a little side note, but yeah, that thing cost me about $200. Okay, and so if you add all those numbers up, you should get to about $6,220. Maybe some miscellaneous in there for cords, things like XLR cables, things of that nature. I didn't put SD cards in there, but I did use some 128 gig SD cards that were really fast. I think they cost me like $100 a piece. I also bought some storage space. So I didn't really put that into my budget necessarily, but these are kind of things that, like, I don't know if they really just for the film because I use them for other stuff. So, but I did need those things. So just kind of keep that in mind. There is some miscellaneous in there. I would say another $500 in miscellaneous, but not on my overall total budget. When you add up all these numbers, they're probably not going to hit exactly at 10 grand, but they're going to be pretty close, maybe over by about $500. Okay, so moving on, other things that I spent. So that's gear aside. That was all the gear I used, okay? That was it. Microphone, camera, a few lenses, a couple ND filters, you know, that's it. Sound equipment, stabilizers, drone, then I just got to work. Okay, on the actual film itself, I did not pay any of my actors. I didn't pay any of my crew. Crew were like friends that were helping out or wanted the, wanted the experience on their resumes or just experience in general. And the actors, they were talented actors, and I had built up a reputation of a talented filmmaker, and they actually really wanted to work with me, which really helped me. So real quick, on that note that I didn't pay any of these actors and pay this crew, that's pretty important. I'm sure people are freaking out, like, what the fuck? Can't believe these people work for free, this and that. I mean, literally, we filmed for 15 days, and that's a lot of time to ask from someone. But the way I heard it one time was that if you really believe in yourself, if you really believe that you have the talent that it takes to make a film and that it's going to do something greater, you really believe in yourself, you put in the work, you have the experience, you've taken the time and done as much as you possibly can, then you're really not asking these people to work for free, okay? Now these actors, they came through, they knew what the situation was. I didn't lie to them or anything, and I basically was just like, look, I'm giving it my all. No one's paying me. I'm the writer, director, editor, producer. I shot the film, the whole fucking thing. Nobody's paying me a dime. The only way I get fucking anything is if I fucking make a good film, get it off to the festivals, and it grows from there. So everybody's just kind of all in with the idea that you're really trying to make something happen out of nothing. All right? You can shoot a film in 15 days without paying actors and crew if these people can work it out. For example, what I did is I took off 2 weeks from my work to go shoot the film. I took 2 weeks of vacation and I went and shot the film during my vacation time. I mean, that was the only way I was going to be able to get the film made. So you have to take sacrifices on yourself, and some of the talent that came out, I'd had to work around their schedules. Some of them were instructors and they had the summer off, and so because of that they were allowed to make the film, and so it kind of worked towards my advantage because I shot the film over the summer. So what you have to do is kind of work out your schedule to accommodate all the actors and talent you can to the best you can, right? So alright, so gear aside, actors and crew aside, now I have to feed everybody. You have to feed your talent, and I told myself that I'd feed them really well. They could eat as much as they want, get whatever they want. There was no limitations when it came to food. So I budgeted $1,500 for food. That's basically like $100 a day, and I only had maybe 5 people on set, so they had pretty good sized budgets where they could eat whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. That was breakfast, lunch, dinner, didn't really matter to me. I never really was like being nickel and diming the food situation. If you ask me, feed your actors and your crew really well, okay? Especially if you can't pay them up front, you have to feed them really well. Don't be cheap on that. I hate to use the term cheap. I understand nobody really wants to be cheap, but you know, there are budgets and you do have to keep things under control and within certain restraints. But for the most part, nobody's being cheap as much as you just have to, you know, when I say, you know, $1,500 over 15 days to feed all the crew, for me, you know, it's pretty good considering that there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, overall, I had 3 main characters, 2 extras, 3 extras, something like that, and then only like 3 crew members. So you know, it was a pretty small group all together. And then, you know, of course, there were some people that were also helping out that were family and friends of those actors that came through. So that all said. All right, back on track. Let's get on the budget. Okay, so next on the budget was props. Props, I spent $500. Okay, now you're actually gonna see this kind of theme go all the way through. I spent $500 on props. I spent $500 on wardrobe. I allocated $500 for locations and locking down locations. I spent $500 on set design, and I spent $500 on miscellaneous. Now, that might seem very general, and it is, but I looked at things, for example, like props. I was like, okay, I need a lawnmower. That's a prop. I need a bike. That's a prop. Then I would say, if my budget is $500 and I need a lawnmower, well, the lawnmower actually has to look used. So I go on Craigslist and I find a lawnmower. Same with the bike. The bike had to look old. The film was kind of like in the early 90s, takes place in the early 90s. So I'm going to pawn shops looking for the bikes. So I'm saving money in that sense by getting stuff that's used and old, but I kind of knew that was going to be the case when I wrote the film. So it goes back to originally when you wrote it, keep those things in mind. If you're going to need something brand new, you're going to have to raise your prop budget higher. You know, if it can be used or old, it can be lower. So wardrobe, the budget was $500, but I was buying shirts for like $2-3 a piece at, you know, Salvation Army and Goodwill. This is okay because the clothes looked used, it looked beat up, it looked old. It was supposed to look that way. So that all made sense. But then there was other issues where I needed uniforms to outfit police officers and a uniform for a prison outfit and stuff like that. These things had to look legit, so I had to find real uniforms and be as clever at that approach as possible. Another thing that went into was set design. $500 for set design. We had to build an actual fort in the woods that the majority of the film took place at that location. So that includes all the wood, all the nails, and all the equipment to build the actual fort out. You know, that went into set design. That's $500 right there. Simple as that. And our locations that we did, a lot of times you can get locations for free. We had this area in the woods that was all free to use, but then like the guy who owned the property, I bought him a little gift for saying thank you for letting us film on his property. That I factored into the budget. Things like a couple houses that we used, a house that we used, I had to get like an Airbnb and I rented it and I used that as part of my budget. So when you're going through your script, that's how you have to figure out what you can afford. And I figured that under $500 or less, I could afford it for these type of different things and kind of work the budget that way. Maybe not the best way to do a budget, but for me it really worked. All I'm saying is it breaks down like this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your script and you're gonna go all the way down and highlight. There's a million different ways to do it, but all I did was highlight. So I highlight the different things that I have in my script. Every time there's a prop, that's a yellow highlight. Every time there's a wardrobe change, you know, I make a little note with a green highlight. That way when I go through my script, I can say, okay, I got 6 shirts that I need, 6 wardrobe changes. I got, you know, 15 different props. You know, and I look at the props and I kind of itemize them out. Like, you know, I need a knife. The knife's going to cost me, give or take, about $10 or less, or whatever it was that I was looking for. And I would factor it all together, and that's how I kind of really got down to how much my budget was going to be. It's a tedious process, but it's really worth it. In the end, it'll make all the work so much easier if you just have like this list of all the stuff that you need to go out and get it. And you can also budget it by looking at it and just saying, I could get a lawnmower for 25 bucks, I can get a bike for $15, whatever you can get it for. So now look, even though I had a budget and even though I had the script all written out and I'd done all this pre-work and everything, there's gonna be a time where you're gonna come across one thing. It's either like the very end of your film where you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this happen. And that really just comes to you being as clever, as creative, as crafty as possible to make that come together. For me, there was a scene where there was several police officers. They were all uniformed, all had you know, guns, military weapons, everything. Had to look as legit as possible. And these were all extras. I had no idea how I was going to put that together. Luckily for me, I reached out to somebody who had connections. That person brought in some friends. They all showed up as extras. They all had the right gear on, said police. Everything looked really legit. I was very, 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 very lucky to have come across that situation. There was a couple times where you have a couple guns in the film. Guns are not cheap. Props that look like guns can be not cheap, you know. So if you don't have connections in that world, you have to be clever on that approach. And again, this same source is what really bailed me out in those situations. And that's probably going to come up with your film. If you have a film and you want to make it, just get into making it. Put yourself in this situation where you don't have a choice. You're going to have to make it one way or another. And that's exactly where I was. I didn't have the resources while I was already filming. And as I was getting closer to that day, I was working out those details. And it finally came together. And the day of, I just had to be as clever as possible. Some people didn't show up that needed to show up with some gear on. I had the gear, but I didn't have the people. I turned to my crew, turned to some friends, start making some phone calls. Hey, can you come out, throw on a bulletproof vest and walk around as if you're a police officer? And they did. And it seems like, oh, well, you know, I'll just film them from behind and no one will know the difference, you know, because the back says police. So you just got to get real creative with it. If you come across a problem or a scene and you don't know how you're going to put it together, don't let that stop you from making your film. All right, if it didn't fit in your budget, go on forward, make the film, and find a creative way to work around that problem. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope this budget episode tried to help you out. You know, like I said, some of these episodes I don't see getting a lot of views. People aren't excited about budgets. They're not excited about anything unless I'm putting great video in here. So, but for me, this is a film school that's free for anyone who's interested. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.